This is the Corner Cutter Podcast, a consistent weekly show all about speed cubing, and this is episode 46. Hey, welcome to the Corner Cutter Podcast, podcasting since 2014. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the most consistent cubing podcast dedicated to entertain and educate you with in-depth conversations with cubers from all across the sport. My website is thecornercutterpodcast.com, and thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, if you aren't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Just take that device out of your pocket and hit subscribe. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and on Android, and that will make sure you get every episode of the show, and you don't want to miss an episode. So anyway, today's topics are, I have a few personal updates. I'll get into that in a minute. Then I have quite a few shout outs and questions from you guys, so I'll have fun answering those. A few updates, and then of course cubing news. That's jam-packed and national results. So we will jump into all of that. Let's start out with some personal cubing updates. Okay, so I've been doing a fair bit of practicing recently, more than usual, and that's because I have a competition coming up this coming weekend. The events are 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, Mega Minx, Square One, Pyraminx, and OH. And they also have 6x6, but I will not be competing in that, since I don't have a 6x6 right now. So the events I've been focusing on practicing have been 2x2, Pyraminx, and 3x3. For 2x2, I'm averaging pretty much sub 4 with CLL. I've had to relearn a few of the CLL cases just because I haven't done that much 2x2 in a while. That was pretty easy though, and I'm getting pretty fast at building the first layer and recognizing the CLL case. For Pyraminx, I've been doing quite a bit of solves. I've been focusing on, I guess, TPS a little bit. I think that's one of my struggles, and tips. I do not like those, but I've been doing pretty good on that, and hopefully I can get some good solves in at the competition. There's only one round of Pyraminx though, so that's too bad. For 3x3, I've been averaging pretty much, or almost sub 14, low 14s, and then I get quite a few 13 second averages of 12. I recently broke my PB average of 5 as well. So doing pretty good with 3x3. Then competition goals. Let's see, 2x2 I want a sub 4 average. 3x3 sub 14 average would be nice PB average. So my current PB average in comp is 13.86 or something like that. So it'd be nice to break that. And then sub 11 single would be cool as well. 4x4 I want sub PB average, so sub 58, and OH PB average as well, because all my PB averages in OH, or all my averages in OH are like 33. So it'd be nice to get a little faster than that. Mega Minx, I want to be sub 2, and for Pyraminx, I want a sub 3.5 average. That would be nice, but it really depends on the scrambles, so we'll see what I can do sub 4, if anything. And then Square One, sub 45 or sub 40. I don't really care. I'm looking forward to that competition, though. I am staff, so I'll have to focus on fulfilling my responsibilities, but I'll make sure I have time to warm up for my events as well. So that's all the updates I have about myself. Let's jump into cubing news. Okay, cubing news, records, releases, and ratings. We'll go into Nat's results in a minute, but let's cover some world records first. Stanley Chappell got the 5x5 blindfolded single world record. It's 33 minutes, 45 seconds. Then Square One, Daniel Karnock got the Square One single, 5.49. It broke it by 0.17. So, great job to Daniel. I'm glad he was able to finally get a world record in Square One. Juan Pablo got the Megaminx world record single. This was pretty amazing. 27.81. The unofficial world record is just below that. So doing that in comp was pretty much amazing. Daniel Rose Levine got the feet world record average. This was not at Nationals. It's now 22.22. So I'm guessing that will be sub 20 by the fall. Or by the end of this year at least. Max Park got the one-handed world record average. So again, he took it away from Keane. But Keane seems to be doing pretty well at home. He has like a sub 9 average of 100. So if he can get some of those times in comp, I think he can get it back. Then Jeff Park got the 3x3 blindfolded single, 17.33. Now let's jump into the Cubing USA Nationals 2018 results. Again, it was in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I won't go through all of the titles, but I'll just go through some of the interesting ones. Felix Zemdegs won 3x3. He got a 6.28 average. So congrats to him. I could tell he was really happy about this. And then Max Park ended up getting the title, but he had a 7.26 average, and that was his worst of the Nationals. So he was doing pretty good in the first two rounds. Then for 2x2, Rami Shabahi won the U.S. title, 1.74. Will Callan, who was featured on episode 39, got messed up in semifinals. So he had a 3-something average, so that's really too bad he didn't make finals. He placed first in the second round of 2x2, so I was hoping he would be able to win, but Rami's great as well. Congrats to Rami. Max Park took the titles for 7x7, 6x6, and 5x5. Of course, Daniel Rose Levine got the feet title. He had a 24 average. And for Pumix, this was interesting. Daniel Goodman won the title, so good job, Daniel. I'm super happy for you. His average in the final round was 2.70. His fastest time was 2.18, and his slowest time was 3.76. He, Henry Savage, and Livia Kleiner podiumed. Drew Brads, he had a pop on his first solve, so he ended up with an 8, and he messed up on his final solve. And he got a counting 3.99, which wrecked his average. So in an earlier round, he did get a 2.16 average with a counting 1. So he was pretty close to the world record average. One big event did happen in 3x3 one-handed the first round. Max Park got a 6.44 single. Now, it was proven to be a misscramble, just off by an L or an L prime. So it did not count for the world record. The WRC determined that. This caused quite the discussion on the live stream as well as the forums. Some people were saying that it should still be counted because Felix's was a misscramble as well. And this misscramble wasn't intentional, like his 4.86, I believe it was. They were saying since Felix's misscramble still counted as the world record, this should as well. I would love to hear your opinions on that. Please email them feedback at thecornercutterpodcast.com. That's just about it I have for results of Nats 2018. Mental Block TV did do a good job of live streaming, and I watched quite a bit of that. And final round of 3x3 was really exciting to watch. So now let's jump into some releases. Cyclone Boys has a new 7x7. It's the G7. Then the Cubicle.us has a new cube cover that was featured at Nationals. It's the version 3. Looks pretty cool. It includes all their new logos and stuff like that, just like the new business card. I guess it's not that new anymore. And the Which Way Mini and Mini M are on pre-order. Speedcube Shop is having a pretty nice deal right now, or they did have a nice deal. There isn't much else, although MoU has some new lube, which looks pretty similar to Maru lube. There's no ratings this week. If you are getting a new cube, why don't you send in some audio feedback of what you think of it? You can go to the website, thecornercutterpodcast.com/feedback, and click leave an audio message and give your review here, and I'll feature it on the next non-interview episode of the Corner Cutter Podcast in Cubing News. Speaking of sending in feedback, let's jump right into shoutouts. Phoenix emailed in. He said, first of all, I would like to say that I love, that was in all caps, listening to your podcast. It has really helped motivate me to practice more, since I can cube for an hour or two straight because I have something else to distract me. You are great and keep up the great work. Thanks, Phoenix. I appreciate that. Then he had some questions. Number 1, what are your opinions on who is a beginner, intermediate, and advanced solver on 3x3? I've heard it said that 20 seconds average is beginner, but also that a 15 to 20 second average is intermediate. I would say 25 plus seconds is a beginner, and then maybe 15 to 25, maybe a little less than 15. I don't know. 15 to 25 is intermediate, and then sub 15, maybe 13 or so is advanced. It really, since more people are getting fast, though, I think these numbers need to shift over time. Like back in the early 2000s, sub 25 seconds was super fast, and like the advanced solvers. So these times need to shift as more and more cubers get faster. So after thinking about that, I would probably say sub 10 is expert, sub 15 is advanced, and then sub 25 is intermediate, and then 25 plus is beginner. Because you have to invest quite a bit of time to get sub 25, and it takes a little while. So that is where I stand. If anybody listening has a different opinion, feel free to correct me or send in some feedback, and I might read it next week. And Phoenix, thanks for sending in so many questions. I don't think I'll get to them all today, but next week or the coming weeks, I'll have fun answering the rest. Let's move on to number 2, though. What are your least favorite events and why? He said, my least favorite event is definitely Megaminx. I don't know why, but it isn't fun, and it's super repetitive with loads of F2L, and I just don't like it. Least favorite event, blind? Yeah, 3 blind. This is what happens with me. I practice the event a little bit. I don't really like it all the time. Like Megaminx, I used to hate Megaminx as well, but after, and 5x5 too, but after I practiced a little bit and got a little bit faster, I started to enjoy the event. Yeah, 3 blind I just don't really like, but I'll keep trying. But square one, I would say I don't like. Like, I'll probably never have it as one of my events in organizing a competition. And Megaminx either. I think the more you practice the event, you begin to like it more. Or if there's new hardware like clock, I didn't really like clock until I magnetized it. Now I love it. So if you don't really like an event, try practicing it for a little while and see if you begin to like it more. So I'll save questions 3 and 4 for the next episode. They do look pretty interesting though, so make sure you come back for that. Phoenix, feel free to send in any more questions you have as well. Thanks for your feedback. Then I got a email in from Christian. He said, "Hello, Josh. I'm a viewer of your podcast, and I have a few questions. How does one organize a competition? Specifically, how do you find a delegate to come delegate the comp? And how do you get permission?" Okay, starting off with that question. It takes quite a bit of work. I've organized 2 competitions, and it's been an extremely fun process, although quite a bit of work leading up and on the day, and it's very stressful as well. But if there's no competitions in your area, I would say try hard to organize a comp. You can go to the page the WCA has that lists all the delegates. I'll have the links in the show notes, but it's worldcubeassociation.org/delegates. Then look for your region and then see if there's any in your state or nearby states. And I would recommend reaching out to at least 2, 3 or 4 is better, that are in the general area or surrounding states to see if they're interested in coming to your competition. Looking around, one of the most important things that you should do right when you email them or before you email them is start looking around for a venue. It can be tough sometimes to find it, but usually schools in the gym or lunchrooms or stuff like that works pretty well, or community centers that have big rooms with tons of tables and chairs. And then getting your permission, you don't really get permission. If a delegate agrees to come, you fill out a competition form, they submit it to the WCA board, and if they okay it, then your competition becomes official. The main things an organizer does are get the competition venue ready, decide what events and plan out the schedule, and also take care of all the scorecards and all the small stuff like that. The delegate, though, brings the stack mats and displays. Also, if you're organizing, you answer the emails and take care of the money. And you guys may be wondering what happens to the competition money, anything extra. Well, some competition organizers keep the money. I don't do that, and I don't like seeing that happen. What I do is I keep it for the next competition I'm organizing, so we can have a lower entry fee. And then sometimes you give it to the delegates so they can buy more equipment or updated equipment. And sometimes you can donate it to charity or to like your local school or something like that. Then Christian had another question. He said he lives in Nebraska and he loves cubing. He said, "The problem is I can't go to competitions farther than 200 miles away. Since I started cubing in 2017, there have been 2 comps plus 1 coming up, and I'm wondering if that is normal compared to other regions of the U.S. Well, Christian, where I am, there haven't been many competitions either until I started organizing. First competition was April of 2016, and then there was another competition in late 2016, and then only one in 2017, which I organized. But there have been 2 this year, and there's one coming up that are going to be in Maine. So we'll have a total of 3 or 4 comps in Maine this year, which is awesome. And that's because of organizers or cubers in Maine stepping up to organize. I would say, there's about 5 or 6 states in the U.S. that haven't had a competition yet. Some of those are Delaware, Mississippi, and Wyoming. So it really depends in the region. New York, Massachusetts, and the Maryland region all have tons of comps. More than one a month sometimes. And then the 2 areas in California have quite a bit as well as Washington. In the less populated regions, there are a lot fewer, and it can be harder to get a delegate there since there's not as many delegates. Or there's one delegate covering a large region. I recommended Christian to listen to episode 14 and 25 of the Corner Cutter podcast. I'll link to those in the show notes to this episode. And I talk in those about organizing competitions. I had 2 responses for the June question of the month, which I will read in the next episode. And coming up, I have question of the month for August. Final feedback for this week was from Reggie from the UK. He said, Josh, I just wanted to let you know I'm still listening to your podcast. The last interview you had with the multi-blind world record holder was absolutely great. It was so informative, but your interview style was perfect. You should be really proud of yourself. You're consistently producing good podcasts with great guests. As I'm writing this, there seems to be a few world records at NATS 2018. Can't wait for you to talk about them in future podcasts. The Megamix world record was insane. Cubing is so popular now. Anyway, have a good day. Cheers, Reggie. P.S. Thanks for mentioning the other podcast. I'm just going through the episodes now, so I still haven't heard the one that you're on. Reggie, yes, the Interactive Cubers podcast. You can listen to them in Apple Podcasts as well. They haven't released an episode for quite a while, but the most recent episode, number 6, you should listen to because I'm on there. I had a lot of fun being a guest on their show, and I'll have a link to their show in the show notes to this episode, thecornercutterpodcast.com. Thanks, Reggie, for the kind words. I appreciate it very much, and I'm glad you enjoyed last week's interview. It has been a popular episode. Just a few updates before we move on to a tip and question of the month. I don't think I talk about this enough, but when you're buying cubes, you can use promo codes and click through links to support the podcast monetarily. It's not free for me to host this show. I pay quite a bit in hosting, so all the episodes stay on Apple Podcasts and the other podcast apps, as well as my website. So I do appreciate you guys using my codes and links when you buy cubes. General one is Corner Cutter. You can get either 5 or 10% off. My new affiliate is with CanCube, the Canada Cube store. So just go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/support to find all the ways you can support the show. And I'm with all the main Cube stores as well, the Cubicle.us, Speed Cube Shop, and Cube Depot USA. Also, I did mention this earlier, but you can send in your audio feedback. I would love to play it on the show. and answer any questions you have. And you can do that by going to thecornercutterpodcast.com/feedback and click on record an audio message. The cubing tip I have for this week is attend a competition. This is for you newer cubers. If you're still averaging around a minute or even 40, 50 seconds and you want to get faster before you attend a competition, I would say no. If there's competitions in your area, go right now. It will get you more involved in the sport and keep you cubing, because just cubing at home can get boring sometimes. It's fun competing. Even if you're slow, you don't go to competitions to win or anything. You go to have fun and meet other cubers. So that's my one tip this week. I see this a lot on the speed solving forums. People ask, should I attend a competition even though I'm this speed, or can I even go? So if you haven't attended a competition yet, go. Okay, now let's jump into the question of the month for August. And the question is, what is one thing that you've been misinformed about in your cubing career? So it would be something that maybe you've thought, or you really thought was one way, but then you found out later, maybe when you knew more about cubing, it was different. Or maybe you purchased a cube that you thought was the best, but you read some wrong information. Or you learned a certain method or some certain algorithms that you thought were better then, but turned out later they weren't. Let me know what you were misinformed about. And I want your answers in audio feedback. So go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/feedback. And I'm pretty much only going to accept answers that are audio feedback, because I want to play them at the end of the month. Last month we only got one that was audio feedback. Thank you, Jack. But if you absolutely don't feel comfortable leaving audio feedback, send it in, feedback at thecornercutterpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Corner Cutter Podcast. You are awesome. And now it's time to take this episode back to the scrambling table, and I'll talk to you guys again next week in episode 47 of the Corner Cutter Podcast.